I am Geoffrey Villehardouin. In Troy Total War, we are in the Agamemnon campaign, past game turn 100, that was last episode, and here is now game turn 106. The campaign is on hard difficulty and battles are on hard difficulty, so yes, it's game turn 106. As you can see, we have conquered parts of Euboea and we moved east. The parts of Euboea, we had to conquer them because they were conquered by various Trojan incursions. You see there, so we're losing some settlements. The Trojans kept coming over. This is game turn 110 now. And at the same time, Lycia was an antagonist, Sarpedon was our antagonist, so we had to go and campaign Lycia as well. And off to game turn 120, we're somewhat expanding our control over Lycia, and we've taken Skyros, that had been conquered by the Trojans. Paris and Hector and so on were over, and they were constantly invading, waves they were invading. So here's 130, game turn 130, we're consolidating and expanding our control over Lycia. We had the support of Penthesilea of the Amazons. She was very helpful in helping us make headway because the campaign is on hard difficulty, so I only had 2 armies that I could afford to take Lycia. It was rather hard with just 2 armies. So fortunately we had Penthesilea and the other Amazons on our side. And now we're starting also to get some support from our other allies, from Dionysius and so on. So you see they're helping us down the bottom and in Moisa and various other allies. So here now at game turn 150. And so it was slow progress. It wasn't so easy. Both Lycia and the Trojans were very hard. And now you see at the top, game turn 160, we're starting to invade. We've taken Lesbos and we're starting to invade the Troad. And here, game turn 173, we're taking most of the Troad. Just Troy itself is left to the Trojans and a couple of other regions up north. And I'll show you the siege of Troy in the next episode. I had a look at the various episodes, and it looked like a lot of my battle saves had been corrupted after the new patch, but I managed to find 2 battles that were not corrupted. So I'm going to show you those. One is from the time when Lesbos was being conquered in game turn 150, 160, and the other one was a battle against one of the Trojan factions up north. And so this is the first battle. This is a battle on Lesbos. Oh no, this was a battle against the Trojans. I guess this happened first before the battle on Lesbos. I guess the Lesbos battle was an invasion. I'll show you later. And so this is one of the Trojan factions. And here's the battle. I had superiority. I had both my armies here. So I was attacking one enemy army with 2 of my own. One of them is controlled by Agamemnon himself. And it's quite a good army. The other army is controlled by one of his generals. I think Agathon was his name. He only had like a couple of generals because they couldn't afford more than a couple of armies on hard difficulty. It wasn't easy. I haven't yet tried the very hard difficulty. I think maybe I tried at the very beginning. It was very, very hard, a very hard difficulty. Hard difficulty was already quite hard. So here's Agamemnon's army. It's an excellent army, very good units. So we have here in the forefront Agamemnon's army. You can see Agamemnon, his icon, and in the distance we have this other general. He's coming to help us with a smaller army. A hero, Agathon I think it was. And there's the enemy army. All spearmen, practically all spearmen. We have a more varied army. So we have spearmen at the front, which is my usual thing. Then we have some chariots. I'll bring them to the right because to the left there are woods, so they won't be able to operate in the woods. So brought both units of chariots to the right. So let's have a look at the units. So at the front here, on the front line are the spearmen. You see they're all very reasonably heavily armored. This is a kind of medium unit. I could not really afford anything better than that. Here are some heavier. These are heavy spearmen. This is a serious unit. But I only have 1 unit of those. So back to the medium spearmen. They're still armored. Lots of bronze, and they have these boar task helmets. Behind them I have the second line. These are usually the various skirmishers, And behind the skirmishers you usually have a third line, sometimes even a fourth line. The third line are the heavy clubmen, axemen, and the other swordsmen and so on. You see they're all very heavy, these units. Sometimes I have some very, very light units in the back, especially on the sides, that I can use as flankers. But here I have the chariots on the right as flankers, so I was relying on those. I didn't bring any light infantry or fast infantry. So you see here the middle line, there are these missile units. There are also some sirens, two troops of sirens. One is here, one is further down. It's coming with the army of Agamemnon. One good thing about this period is we can have some Amazons, we have some sirens, more variety, more colorful units. Also the so-called centers. I don't know if it was a good idea to have them as proper cavalrymen. I think as real centers would have been more fun, but whatever. It wouldn't have been very historical thing. Creative Assembly is very sensitive to criticism, so they wouldn't like to be seen as making non-historical units for a historical title. You know, people are very nitpicky at times, but this period was a period of, legend more than a historical period. I think centuries would have been okay, personally. Okay, so here's the reinforcing army, so slowly marching in our direction. And this was an easy battle. It wasn't a hard battle. But first of all, it was one of those battles that has been saved properly. It was not corrupted by the new patch. And secondly, it was a very large battle. I had both my armies here at full strength, and the enemy had a very large army, although the quality was not matching what our quality plus quantity. So the quality was okay. They weren't very experienced. They didn't have much variability. They were mostly spearmen. The animations here are a bit silly. I don't know if it is because my computer is super fast, so in other computers the animations would be slower. It wouldn't be marching in this kind of very fast-paced way. Here's the other troop of sirens. And I'm going to show you the sirens in action, by the way. So here we get an overview of the various units. These are the units that come with Agamemnon. They are kind of relatively lighter units. They're not the best units, but yeah, some heavy units like this one, for example. It's pretty heavy. Then there's this medium spearmen. We're already getting to Agamemnon's army, I think, here. So I've made a very, very long line of these units. There are some heavy spearmen and medium spearmen. These are mostly Agamemnon's units, and Agamemnon comes with slightly lighter units. It was a reinforcing army. Usually I'd fight with Agamemnon. That's what I normally do. I have the faction leader with the heaviest army, whether it's Agamemnon, Menelaus, Achilles, whatever. And then there's a reinforcing army helping out with the second best general. And usually it's two armies that I use. At least until endgame, when I can afford to build more armies. There's one main army and then a slightly lighter reinforcing army. Okay, so here is this Trojan army. It was one of the Ilian armies, I can't remember exactly, Harta City or one of those. And they're sort of colored in the Trojan way, this purple color. And they're spearmen, nothing but spearmen, maybe some swordsmen as well, but it's mainly these melee units, very similar, all of them. There's some behind them. There's tall grass here, some swordsmen, and here more swordsmen, and they extend into the forest. which is a little bit worrying because those who are in the forest, you cannot see them very well. And it's difficult to gauge how many units they have in the forest, because the army was a full strength, huge army. 20 units. Okay, so the Trojans are making a move, and we cannot be sure exactly where all their units are, whether there's some units hiding somewhere. So at this point, I'm tentatively considering to move forward. I'm still sitting up there on the hill, but I'm worried of what else is in the trees. So I moved the units slightly down, and you see the chariots are now taking position on the right, along with some chargers. There's this unit at the back, unit of chargers you see there. Over here is Agamemnon with some giants. So here's Agamemnon. Posing for the camera. Yes. That's the man. The King of Kings.
Acknowledged.
There are the chariots on the right. I also have some giants, it would seem, on the right. And then I have a unit, some sort of Agamemnon's guard, this unit with double-handed spears. Then on the right there's chargers. Very heavy unit. And here the chariots take position on the right. Here the ground is more open, so they can hopefully operate more, more easily. So here are those chargers, Agamemnon's guard, fantastically heavy unit.
Where'd you come from? The foe has sighted your hidden units.
Oh dear. Okay, I have sighted their hidden units, in fact, and you can't really see them, but there were hidden units in the trees as we're approaching. So I'm withdrawing because I don't know what is in the trees. I want to be out in the open so I can see what's going on. In any case, the enemy doesn't have any archers, so there's no advantage in fighting in the trees. I'd rather be out in the open. So I've retreated my units so I can have a better view of who's where. And the Trojans are approaching. They seem to be trying an outflanking maneuver. You hear the sirens. They are slingers. I only realized at this battle that they were slingers. So they cast a spell now on one of the enemy units. In fact, they cast a spell on 2 units. So here's the other unit of Amazons. They also cast a spell. And you see the unit, you see them on the left there. They're trying to get to the Amazons. They try to go through the front line of Spearmen to get to the Amazons. They've reached the Amazons. Wow, that's quite amazing. They went through all those Spearmen. Somehow. Magic. And the Amazons do not seem phased. They just walk along. Hey, get out of my way. They don't really... Nothing happens to them. They are ghost-like. Meanwhile, the enemy, the Trojan unit is being cut down as it tries to go through the front lines. And they manage to get through the front lines, through the lines of the missile units. They're not killing anyone, although they're somehow running around without killing anybody. They're chasing the sirens. Sirens have disappeared. They're very fast. And so this unit is like a write-off. Basically, it's been wiped out. Okay, they're already routing, you see? They're routing. We have a look at the icon, let's see. Where is it? Yeah, they've been routed. So basically that enemy Trojan unit was completely wasted. And I think while they were chasing after the sirens, they weren't killing anyone. So they were just being killed. And that's the advantage of having the sirens. You can cause a lot of damage by leading men astray. That's, I guess, what's going on. Okay, so here are the front lines. And there are Trojans on the right, Achaeans on the left, some light spearmen, or could have been even javelin men. They're fighting with spears. And here are the chariots. The chariots are charging the sides of the Trojans. And this Trojan unit has been routed. The Trojan units were very heavy, are very good units. They're medium to heavy units. But they didn't have any missile units, and they didn't have very high experience. And at this point, they have various buffs. So here you see the chariots. You know, my faction has various buffs from the various gods, and the high experience for Agamemnon, and he has buffs and so on. So it's very difficult for inexperienced enemy units to compete. Oh, here are some giants. They've charged these units. They went through a man and charged the enemy unit that was caught in melee. And I'm sorry that sometimes the replays break up, like you see here. I don't know why this happens. I have a very fast computer. I don't think it's because of the programming of the program that I'm using is perhaps. Okay, here you see again the chariots hitting their backs. And so what the chariots are doing is they're going down the Trojan front line, charging one unit after another, basically, as they are caught in melee. So they go from unit to unit to unit, and they charge through them, disorganizing them. And you see here some heavy swordsmen have come to help the front line. It's on the right, so I've brought some various flankers and so on. Here are the chariots that keep running through the enemy, and finally the enemy has been routed, as you see here from this overhead view with the flags. And that was the end of the battle. The total battle lasted about 10 minutes, including the deployment phase. So the actual fighting only lasted about 2 to 3 minutes, and I copied, you know, I replayed the replay a few times, and I looked at various bits and pieces of the battle. So the battle looks longer than it actually was. It wasn't as long as you saw there, because I've taken scenes and I kind of mixed them together and added them together. So let's go over to the next battle. The next battle was the battle in Lesbos, on Lesbos. Here's Paris is attacking this other general of ours, Orsilochos. And it was a very interesting battle because Orsilochos was next to a settlement or something, but the garrison did not come to reinforce him. And he was basically ambushed. And although he had a very good army, I nearly lost this battle. He was ambushed by Paris. Paris had some special trait. Even though he had a weaker army, you see there, at least the quality was not so good. Definitely the quality was much inferior. Somehow he nearly defeated me because he sort of ambushed me. Yeah? And so I had to make a noob fort. I was ambushed at night somehow. So I had to make this noob fort. And I didn't know what to expect. It was the first time I'd been ambushed. I wasn't moving. You know, suddenly the game turned change. My army was not moving. So you see the various units here. I have some Agamemnon's guards in the rear, and then spearmen at the front, and missiles in the middle. I have some giants as well, and here I have some chariots. So my units were parked next to a settlement, but somehow they were ambushed by an attack. They were attack ambush. They didn't fall into an ambush. They were attacked at night, something like this. So you see here this very, very, very beautiful view of the full moon, nearly full. And the chariots, I put them on the left because it was the only kind of open area, at least the only open area that looked safe. But you see what happens. I thought this was, it was in the corner. I thought it was the only safe place. But the AI is, it's not down. It's quite good. Both the battle AI and the companion AI. The companion AI is fantastic, I think. It's the best ever for creative assembly. And the battle AI is decent. It's not any better than some of the previous, like Rome 2 or something, or Thrones of Britannia. So we have our men here and the trees. At the front are the spearmen and the other units behind. There's an exchange of missiles here. The enemy is in the open, so we have the advantage of some protection from the trees. And the enemy has some chariots. I put my spearmen on guard, so the chariots just got stuck among the spearmen. And, sorry, let's get back to an overhead view. So here with all the flags, and you see on the right, Paris himself went to attack the chariots. And for a while, he got the chariots in melee. It was very annoying. And then the chariots had to dash off to get rid of him. And here I'm attacking Paris with those chargers. No, I'm attacking... No, here I'm going... Those units I'm trying to help out the charioteers because they got been ganged upon by everybody. And here's Paris, and he's been attacked by the chargers, Agamemnon's guard. They're not very fast chargers. They have two-handed weapons. They have a charge, but they're not very fast. That's the downside. They have a good charge otherwise. And so Paris is disengaging. Here's the main fight in front of us. And there's some chariots. Now, these are, I believe, still the enemy chariots. I'm trying to kill them. One of our units is about to rout. One unit is routed there. And the AI sometimes makes this funny move and some of the units start running around pointlessly. So here's the fighting in the trees. Unfortunately, you cannot see very much. We've routed some enemy units that tried to attack our archers or something, our missile units, slingers, and a bit routed. And now our slingers are running after the routed units. And various, I had some reserves in the back, various heavy swordsmen and so on. And that's basically the end of the battle. The battle itself barely lasted more than 90 seconds. It's the usual thing. Battles are ultra fast. And by sending those spearmen to help out the charioteers, I managed to disengage the charioteers. So some of that chaos caused in the rear of the enemy was caused by the charioteers that managed to get detached or disengaged after the reinforcements arrived, and they managed to do some proper disruption of the enemy. So this was not a very easy battle. You see, it's very chaotic. The units running all around, but the enemy still has some units in good order. The morale of my own units was not very good because they were attacked at night or something. So they kept being routed.
One of your units has no more ammunition.
But they were coming back in the end. And so that was basically the end of the battle. There's not much more to see. Unfortunately, I don't have the results. I haven't kept the results for these battles. I don't think so anyway. I couldn't find them anywhere. But both were victories. The previous one was relatively easy, but more spectacular. This one, several of my units got routed. It was quite hard. It was a very peculiar battle. And so here's where we are. And the next settlement now is Troy. And I'm going to show you the Siege of Troy. And the next episode is going to be the last episode of this campaign. Thank you for watching.